Okay.
When Molly was 5 years old, there was a man that lived across the street. His name was Joe Boozy. And he always had this statue in his house. And it's a copy of the statue called the National Monument to the Forefathers. And Joe would always raise the flag, and we'd go over, and he would tell us different stories. And one of the stories he told us was, he was going to the dump one day, and one of the men said, "Hey Joe, come here, we got something for you." And he found this beautiful statue. Someone threw it away in the dump. And when Molly was 5, she used to ask me about it. So one day I thought, you know what, I think I'm going to write a story about this monument and about how Joe found her. So I named the story Molly's Promise to Faith, because the main statue on the monument, her name is Faith. So would you like to hear the story?
Like the Faye with Lily.
Like Faye with Lily?
Yeah.
That's her name, right? Do you want to come over here and you can see the pictures? One of you on each side of me? Come over here, Brenda. Now this is actually what happened. One day, Molly came to visit her grandmother. She saw a small statue sitting on her kitchen counter. "Grandma, what's this?" Molly asked. "Oh, it's a copy of a much larger statue, which is a national monument to the Forefathers here in Plymouth, Massachusetts. In the 1800s, when they were trying to build the monument, if someone donated a large sum of money, they would receive a replica of the statue. And my neighbor Joe, who was 99 years old, found that many years ago in the town dump."
Is this colored?
Yes, little children did these pictures for me. Joe treasured this monument for many, many years. The actual monument was built over 150 years ago, and I'm working with some friends who are trying to restore it. Many years of weather has caused much of the granite to crack and fall apart. Then Molly asked me, "Why is that lady's finger bent?" And pointing to the side of her head. And I said, "Oh, Molly, her finger is bent because of the fall she must have taken at the town dump. On the monument itself, she is the statue named Faith, and her finger points upward toward heaven. So really her finger is pointing up, if you go to see the real statue. Okay? Her foot is standing on Plymouth Rock, and she has the Bible under her other arm. She represents the huge faith of the pilgrims."
Is that the Bible?
That lady has the 10 Commandments. I'll tell you about her too, okay? "Who are all these other statues?" asked Molly, as she touched the 10 Commandments with her fingertips. "Well, this statue is morality, and this wise man is law, and this strong man who looks like a Roman soldier is liberty. And this lady is education, holding the book of knowledge. Did you know, Molly, that school children like yourself helped erect her statue? They saved their pennies, nickels, and dimes." "Oh, Grandma," cried Molly, "can we go see her sometime?" "Yes, Molly, we can. She doesn't get many visitors these days, and she's very lonely. Maybe we can think of a way to bring her back to life." Now, these are a couple more pictures that some children drew. One drew of the rock and some boats out in the harbor, and one drew the statue pointing up and a bird flying behind her. Didn't they do a good job? And there's another picture, and this little person thought Molly looked like that. That night, Molly fell asleep. She had a dream about what her grandmother had told her. She found herself on the top of a hill overlooking Plymouth Harbor. The sun was setting as she looked to the west. She squinted her eyes to look up at the Statue of Faith, but she was gone. She could only see the 4 other statues around her base. She began to call out, "Faith, Faith, where are you?" Suddenly, Morality jumped up from her seat and said, "Faith took a walk." She told us she was lonely and she needed to find someone who still knew what she stood for and why we're all here. She is the one who holds us all together, and we are really cracking under the pressure. Law has even lost a few fingers from the stress. Could you find her for us?" Morality pleaded. Molly said, "I'll do my best, but you must be strong and sit tight until I get back. It's starting to get dark, so I will light this candle to help me find my way back up the hill." So
Like
that's
that
why,
candle?
yes, just like that candle. Molly walked through the streets of the town calling, "Faith, Faith, where are you?" But no one answered. The shops were closed, and it looked like people were settling into their homes for the night. She passed the library, and she passed the police station, and she heard someone crying, and it was coming from the town dump. As she approached the gates, she noticed that they were locked, but she could slip right through them. She called out, "Faith, is that you I hear crying?" "Yes, it's me," sobbed a little voice in the shadows of the town dump. Molly made her way over to Faith and threw her arms around her and cried out with joy, "Oh, Faith, I found you. Why are you crying?" "They've all forgotten," Faith sobbed. "I stand there day after day, year after year, and hardly anyone visits me anymore. The few that do visit me never even knew I existed. Then there are nights that people come and they just party, and they leave trash everywhere. Morality can't believe how people have forgotten. Law is losing his balance, and liberty is afraid no one has a conscience anymore. Education just sits there, reading her book of knowledge. She won't talk to any of us. And what makes matters worse is I just fell and hurt my finger." Molly looked at Faith's finger and noticed she had a scratch. And now this was a great picture. Look at how great someone drew her crying. And there's little Molly trying to come through the gates. And she writes here, "She gently caressed Faith's hand and wrapped her finger with her scarf. Oh, Faith, I'm so sorry. Come with me before it gets too dark. The others are worried about you, and I told them I would bring you back home to them. We'll find a way to make it better." Molly carefully held on to Faith's finger as they walked through the darkened streets of town. As they came to the waterfront, the stars twinkled off the water. Faith stopped to look at the Plymouth Rock. "I wish people wouldn't be so disappointed when they see the size of the rock. I was built as tall as I am to emphasize the greatness of the Pilgrim's faith. The rock was just a stepping stone to lead others to a better way of life. That is its real legacy," said Faith. "Come on, Faith," urged Molly. "We need to hurry. The others are counting on you. We'll find a way." When they returned, the candle was still burning brightly to guide them up the hill. Morality, law, and liberty were all anxiously talking, but Education was quietly reading her book of knowledge. As Molly approached, Education looked up and with a broad smile said, "Faith, you finally stepped out and found our hope. Did you know that I am the symbol of the Pilgrims' love for their children? Faith, you have found the answer to our problem. Others have forgotten to teach the children. You have brought our only hope." "Wait, wait, wait," shouted Faith. "I didn't bring her. She brought me back home to you, and I don't even know her name." Molly looked up as she still held on to Faith's finger and said, "My name is Molly." They all responded, "Pleased to meet you, Molly." "Why were you looking for me?" asked Faith.
Molly?
Yes, that's a picture of what this one little girl thought Molly looked like. This little girl's name was Hannah, who drew that picture. "Well, my grandmother told me all about you and how no one seems to care about you. She told me how lonely you all have been. I wanted to visit you and help you. I think we need to listen to Education and bring the children here to see you."
Why is she that color?
Well, the little girl, I think, used pencil to draw her. And if you see the real statue, she's gray. So she wants us to bring the children there to see her. And she says they need to meet you and learn all of your names and why you're here. We can save our pennies, nickels, and dimes just like the children of the 1800s. You'll never be lonely again. They all thanked Molly, and Faith leaned over and gave Molly a hug. She then asked Molly to do one very special thing for her. "Molly, could you ask the children to light a candle that will burn here always so others will never forget me and they will always be able to find me, even in the dark?" As Faith stepped back up to her position above the others, Molly watched, and as she placed her foot on top of the rock and placed the Bible under her arm, before she pointed her finger up to heaven, she blew Molly a kiss. You see her blowing a kiss? Molly answered Faith and said, "Yes, Faith, I promise." And Molly sealed her promise with a kiss, which she blew back to Faith. You see Molly saying there, "I promise." Help Molly keep her promise to Faith. Help us light a candle to show America her way home. Now, a long, long time ago in Plymouth, there was a governor, and he wrote in his journal, "As one small candle may light 1,000,